Okay, the first step we're going to do is we're going to proof our yeast, and I'm going to be adding a half a teaspoon of yeast to 140 milliliters or half a cup of milk. But the milk has to be warm. It's going to be whole milk. Now, what I'm going to be using to test the warmness of this milk, this is just a little meter that I bought. It's to keep up the with my maintenance on my fish tank. And it's just a water temperature gauge and a parts per million gauge that tells you how much mineral salt's in the water. But anyway, we're going to test the warmth of our milk with this. I want my milk to be between 105 and 115 degrees. That will be perfect for the yeast that I'm using. Okay, so I'm just going to stick that in there. First of all, got to turn it on. I'm going to just stick this down in the milk. Normally that would be for water, but it'll do milk. And I'm just watching the temperature go up on this. If you can see, the temperature is the little gauge on the bottom down there. Right now it's at 90 degrees. It's still going up. It's climbing pretty steady, but it's not close enough to where I want to be. Now, this was straight out of the refrigerator, and I keep my refrigerator cold. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in the microwave for another 15 seconds. And that should bring me right up to where I want to be, but it certainly probably will not make it hotter than I want it to be. Now I'm going to go ahead and rinse this off, because I don't want it to get into my end. This tip has to remain wet at all times. I'm going to turn that off. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the milk in the refrigerator for another 15 seconds, and then I will come back. Okay, I've got the yeast back out of the microwave. I put it in for 15 more seconds, and I'm going to test it again. And you can see that meter's on 0 right there. So I'm going to go ahead and stick that in there. What's that temperature? See what that temperature is set at now? Let's see if we can see that. Right now we're at 104. We're rising pretty steady. 105, 106. Now I don't want it to be over 115 degrees, because if it is, it's going to ruin my, can you see that? Right now it's at 110. It's holding pretty steady. I know you can't probably see that. About 111, but it's not rising quickly anymore. So that's right where I want my temperature to be. And I'm going to go ahead and run this under the water real quick. We'll put in a half a teaspoon of, okay, turn that off. So we're going to put in a half a teaspoon of, I keep mine, I'm using instant yeast. It's rapid rise, but that's okay. It's dry yeast. I keep my yeast in the refrigerator, and I'll tell you why I buy it in a container like this, because it's much cheaper. When you buy this bottle right here, this has I forget how many. Let's see. This has the same amount as 16 envelopes of yeast. Man, that's a lot. That's 16 loaves of bread if you're baking them. But with the jar, it's just much quicker. I mean, it's much cheaper, and you can just measure. A packet's 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast, so now we're going to get a half a teaspoon of yeast measured out. Just drop that right into the milk. This is called proofing. I want to let this sit aside for about 10 minutes, and we'll put this back in the refrigerator. I want that to sit aside for about 10 minutes. And I'm going to take a stick. I use a stick because I don't like to stick something in there that's going to pick up all the stuff that I'm wanting to say. Now, once I get this mixed in with the warm milk, it's at 111 degrees or 112 or something like that. That's perfect. I'm telling you, this milk, this yeast is going to proof it, and it's live because I know it's good. But the only reason I'm proofing it is because I just like to. And now, the recipe calls for 2 tablespoons of sugar. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put the sugar in, because the sugar will help the yeast to proof. So we got 2 tablespoons of sugar. Measure that out of there. As you can see, I'm just taking it straight out of my jar here. We're going to sprinkle that right in, because that sugar will help that yeast to rise. Okay? Want that mixed in. Now I'm not going to put in salt because everything I've studied and read and learned from, you put in salt in yeast when it's rising, and it could keep it from performing like it should. I don't know the science of it, but I know for a fact from everything that I've saw, every one of the good commentators says do not put salt in with your yeast when you're proofing your yeast. I can already see it starting to bubble. We're going to leave it right here underneath the camera. I normally don't like to work on my dough board. This is a marble chessboard that I had, and I'm getting more use out of it as a a dough board than I do out of chess anymore, because I don't have anybody living close around me anymore that likes to play chess like I do, or at the level that I do, and so I have to play my computer most of the time, and I don't need a board for that. But I need a good dough board, and believe me, this marble board just makes all the difference. Besides that, I like it. It looks nice. It's fun to work on. That's me. I like to work out of the envelope. Set that aside. We're going to let that proof for now. And I'm going to stop the video. Okay, so now we're back, and my yeast has been proofing. As you can see, it's all bubbling up right there. And I got the sugar mixed in here, so let's not forget that. Now I'm going to pour this yeast, and it's been sitting about 10 minutes. And in the meantime, I've been preparing the other things that I need. We'll talk about that as we go. Okay, so I've got an egg in here, one egg. I'm going to go ahead and pour in the yeast and egg mixture. Yeast and milk mixture. Set that aside. I don't like to leave things just sitting over here dirty like that, in case I want to grab it again. Okay, now I've got my egg and my milk and my sugar, egg, milk, sugar mixture in there, and I'm going to add 40 grams of melted butter. Okay. Now we're going to just whip all that together. Just going to kind of whisk that together in my mixing bowl. That mixed up real good. That's the butter, the milk, the sugar, and the yeast. The yeast is still working in there. Now what we're going to be using, we're going to be sifting in 2 cups of bread flour. But we want to make the point of that I am going to be using bread flour. I like bread flour for making any kind of bread, because bread flour just has a better gluten. It has higher gluten consistency in it, and that just makes the bread stay together and more chewy. And some people now can't tolerate gluten, but I can, so I like it. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to start sifting in this this flour mixture with the salt. Now the reason I put the salt into the flour is because everything I've studied, I might have said it already, is that if you put salt directly in with yeast, it just doesn't help it to yield very well. So I'm going to go ahead and start sifting in 1 cup. Matter of fact, as I'm putting in the sifter, it just goes right into the sifter. But bread flour is pretty good anyway. Now what I'm going to do as I'm doing this, I'm just going to start mixing it in. I don't want to over mix. You overwork this dough once you put the flour in with the milk and the yeast. You overwork the bread dough, and your bread is going to wind up flat and tough. So I'm just going to stir, just barely stir. I want to stir it. I want the gluten change to form, but I don't want it to overwork the bread. That's just all I can tell you. Don't overwork the bread. Just mix it in slowly. This first cup. Not even sure it's going to need 2 cups, because I'm just going to go by consistency. When you're not kneading bread, it's still going to rise, but you don't want to overwork it, man. I'm telling you. You don't want to overwork it. This dough is going to be very sticky. That's why when I get ready to turn it out of the bowl, I might not turn it. I might just move it around and oil it and leave it in the bowl and let it rise, but it's not going to be kneaded. It's just going to be mixed. first time. Then it's gonna rise for 2 hours or 3 hours, depending on how warm your kitchen is. You want it to double in size. Just gonna put some plastic over the bowl, oil for the bowl. Don't want your dough sticking to your bowl before it comes out. Now this don't have to take forever, but it takes a little while because you want to be, you know, if you want your bread to turn out nice and light and fluffy, this is what you got to do. Now this is the first cup, so I'm going to go ahead and just work this in. Like I said, I'm using bread dough now. This is Gold Medal bread dough. I like Gold Medal brand. I get it at Walmart here, my local Walmart. Just keep working this little mixture here. Like I said, I don't want to over mix. Just want to now if this was in your mixer, you know what your mixer would be doing. It would just be spinning it around, you know. And if you can make this dough, this bread in a mixer, no problem. We're just going to keep working it around. Anybody knows that's worked with bread long enough, bread dough, knows that that dough right there is too wet. That would be silly to think that you had a proper mixture there. Now, we're going to get another cup of, like I said, I use bread flour. Okay? Mark my containers so I don't get the wrong thing. I'm going to scoop it out. What they talk about is always take your flour and spoon it into your measuring cup, but since I'm going to sift it anyway, this is okay. All right, now we're going to put our flour in our sifter. Gradually keep working it in. Starting to look a little better, starting to come together. Now you can see it's starting to take on the likeness of dough now. Starting to stick, starting to form a ball. So I'm going to sift that in because I want all that 2 cups in there. Okay, I want every bit of that in there. I'm going to put my flour away. I don't like to leave it uncovered too long. It soaks up all the moisture in the room. Okay, now we're going to get this bowl where we can do some work in here, but I don't want to overwork the dough. But by the time we get done here, we should have a nice ball. I just want to keep turning it over. Turn the dough over. Move it around. As if you were working it in. Kneading it in by hand, which I could do, but I'm not going to. I don't want to overwork it. I'll just keep moving it around, pressing it with my spoon. I can tell you by experience that this is looking real good. Some recipes don't call for you to work the dough too much, you know. Since this is a no knead dough, we're just going to do like your bread machine would do. So I saw one program where a guy was saying, always spin your dough to the right. You know, I don't know why they do stuff. They probably tell you stuff like that just so they can make sure that you keep your mind focused on what you're doing. But when you're working bread, you know you just gotta keep with it. You can't stop, you know. I mean, you can let your dough rest after you get it mixed and stuff, but while you're mixing, just keep going. Now you can see I picked up all the flour in this bowl, and this dough is sticky. And you would be tempted at this point. I know I have been. That's where I made my mistake in the past. You're tempted to put more liquid in here or more flour, and I'm telling you, don't do it. This is good. This looks. You can see how the gluten is starting to form. See how it's sticking to the dough? If it was in a bread machine, it'd be pulling that off. the sides, but we're going to leave it in the bowl. I'm not taking it out of the bowl. I'm going to keep moving it around a little bit. It ain't quite ready yet. Now the main thing is I've got to get it into an oil bowl. I better not try to use this bowl because it might stick. I got too much stuff on the side here. And I'm not going to add any more flour. I want this dough to proof right where, just like it is, but I got to get it unstuck from that bowl. Okay, so I'm going to oil another bowl. Suitable for letting bread rise in. I'm gonna put a little olive oil in this other bowl, just a hair, just a little. Any liquid you add to your bowls, stuff like that, adds to the liquid of your mixture. You don't want that messed up. So I'm gonna go ahead and oil this bowl pretty good with my clean hands, so that when I put the dough, I'm going to scrape it over here into this bowl. I made myself a beautiful works baking station. I love it. Just makes everything so much easier. If you want to try to see what I'm doing, I'm trying to scrape this dough over into this oil bowl, because that's where it's going to. You can see the consistency of the dough. See how it still looks like it's sticky, and it is sticky, but it's okay. I can tell that this dough is going to form beautifully. Now I need to get this. I'm missing one of my favorite tools over here. I gotta grab it. That's this right here. This I love. These little mixers right here, they work great. Now you could take and put some oil on your hand, or flour on your hand. That would help manage some of this dough. I just don't want to leave too much of it in here because I want it all. I'm going to go ahead and try to get a little bit of piece. I don't know if it's even worth it, but just a little bit of dough. And you'll see that it's not worth the trouble once I bring out what I saved here. So don't even make yourself go through it. I just do it to keep from going down my sink. That's all I was able to pull out of there. That's all you're going to get. So anyway, we're going to take this. As you can see, it's not sticking, because I got a little oil in the bottom of the bowl, and I'm going to roll it over completely so that it's all over the bowl. Come on, roll over. There you go. I have to put my hand in there. That's okay. Boy, I can tell already that's going to be a good batch of dough. I can just tell. You know, when you work it, that's why you got to get in your kitchen, you got to bake. It's just like working on a car, you know, or oil painting or whatever. You got to practice. You don't get in here but once a month, you're never going to get the feel for it. But look at that. That is exactly the consistency that I want right there. It looks wet, and it is, but it's going to rise beautifully. I can just tell. Now I'm going to take my clean baking towel, which I have around my neck. No, I think I'm going to go ahead and cover this with plastic. Let me put this in the sink and run the water. I'm going to go ahead and put some plastic wrap over it, so that it keeps the moisture in. And I'm going to let it rise in my oven, because my oven is nice and warm. It's not gas, it doesn't have a pilot light. So I won't be afraid to let it rise in there. I know a lot of you probably don't use plastic because plastic wrap's hard hard to do what you want to do sometimes, but it's cheap. And once you get it to seal, it does what you want it to do. Now I'm going to put that over there like that. Then I'm going to put that's my old, rub it up rack. I'm going to put my tea towel, as they're called. These good cloth towels, you can buy them about six to a packet at Walmart for a couple of bucks, man. About $5 it used to be, and these are just great for the kitchen. Great. My grandmother always had a bunch. She made them out of old flour sacks, you know. All right, I'm going to put that in the oven. We're going to come back in 2 hours, and we're going to check the rise on it. Okay? So let's stick that in there. We're going to let that rise for 2 hours. I'm going to set my timer. Set it for 1 hour, the first setting, and then I'll check it after an hour to make sure that it's doing it too. Bonnie Lass! Come here, baby. Gotta give Bonnie her treats this morning. I didn't get mad at you. I just don't want you getting up on the counter, sweet pea. Here you go. Take your other one. Take your other one. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to let that dough rise for 2 hours. We're going to check it, and if it all looks good, then we're going to come back and we're going to, we're actually not going to knead it, but we're going to push it down, get it out of the bowl, form it, and you know, handle it as little as possible. That's the secret to this kind of dough right here, you know. Don't mix it, don't handle it too much, and push it down, form it, put it back into, or form it into rolls, dinner rolls, put it in the pan, and then let it rise again for about 45 minutes, and then we will bake it for 20 to 25 minutes in a 375-degree oven. Okay, all right, we'll come back to the video once we get ready to check the rise. Okay, it's been 2 hours now since we put our dough aside to rise. And so now I'm going to go ahead and just sprinkle lightly my marble board where I'm going to turn the dough out. And I'm not going to knead it, I'm just going to turn it out, form it, and then I'm going to slice it into 8 sections, or try to probably get to maybe 6 rolls, depending on how big the loaf is going to be. And then first of all, I'm just going to get it out, force the gas, push the air out, lay it out, roll it up, slice it, and you'll see. Okay, let's get it out. Now, it's been rising 2 hours. We're going to look at it. Oh yeah, look at that. That dough has doubled in size for sure. We don't want to rise too much. Now, we don't want to overwork this dough because the main goal is to keep it light and fluffy. You can see that. Look at that dough, the way it just moves around in there. That's perfect. It's perfect. So, now I just want to just free it up in the bowl, so when I push it out, it'll come right out of there. You see that? I'm just freeing it around the edge right there, because it's going to come out because it was in this oiled bowl. Now, just want to roll it out. I want to sprinkle a little flour on the top of it, so that I don't want to put too much flour on there. That's just very little bit, believe it or not. That'll just keep it from sticking on that on the board when I put it out there. Now, I'm going to use pretty much my slicer because I just want to move it around a little bit. Now you can see, even though it looked like it was sticky, it's manageable. So I'm going to go ahead and push the gas out. Just push the gas out. Because I want it to rise again. And while I'm doing that, I'm just going to kind of be forming it. And just so I can handle it. I'm getting all sides so I can handle it. See? Even though it might look like it's a little sticky, I'm going to put a little bit of flour on my hands. I made the sprinkler out of, this was a pie top, what do you call that? Frosting. pie frosting can, I just went around these little edges. You can just follow the little line and put you some holes, and it works great. I'm telling you. It really keeps you from having to handle your dough too much. Now I've already handled this more than I wanted to, but I got to do it because I want to form the ball and slice it. So I'm going to just spread it out. I don't want to work the gluten too much. I'm going to roll it into itself like that so I can start slicing it. I'm going to stretch it out. Okay. I want to stretch it, that's all. If you've ever handled frozen rolls out of at the store, you know that they're not huge, they're not great, they're not big things, you know. But I'm looking at my chessboard, and this is one thing it comes in handy for. I can make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's going to give me 6 right there. So I'm just roll it out again, just a little. It's sticking to the board a little. That's okay. It's not going to just stick. I might sprinkle just a little more dough down so that when I cut it, it won't stick. See, just lightly, very lightly. Okay. Flour the end of my thing. Now I'm going to get that stretched back out again, right where I want it. Now I'm going to slice it on that line. That's one good thing about this chessboard, man. I love it. It gives me measurements. Now the reason you want to do this is because you want, when you're baking, you want your rolls to bake evenly. Okay, now I have my greased pan. I use butter and flour, but I have it in the freezer so that my butter won't melt. Just gotta move a few things here out of the way. There we go. See if I can see that pan. Yeah, we can see the pan, I believe. Can we? Yeah. Okay, well, we can see it good enough. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to just take your dough and you want to just start turning it under, just like that right there. You wouldn't believe dough that would look this good that hadn't been kneaded, but it's kind of amazing when you look at it. Now that roll is going to be plain. I could put these in a regular muffin pan, but I don't want to do that. I want to have them rise up like dinner rolls, you know. So I'm trying to get that to push underneath. There we go. Got a little bubble coming up. It's already trying to rise. I'm gonna put that right there. Same thing with this one. I don't want to. It's already starting to rise on me again. Boy, this dough, I'm telling you, this is a great way to make. Now what this does, this exposes a different top on this, and this is good. I want it to do that. And as you can see, when it comes underneath the bottom, you're just more or less just taking it and you're closing it off. You don't want you want it to be closed. Okay? Make a nice little ball. Now see how those are all going to be just about the same size? And my hand's floured nicely, so might be a little bit bigger than that one, but that's okay. See, I just want to get a nice smooth outside, and then I want to just lock all that gas in there and there by pinching that bottom shut. Now my hands are getting a little sticky, so I'm going to have to flour them again. We'll get this last one made right here. There we go. Put a little more flour on my hands, not on the bread. The bread has enough on it. The bread's not sticky, it's just when I start stretching it, putting my fingers into it in the bottom down there, they stick a little bit. I just want those to form up just like that. See? Nice little ball. Let that stretch a little more because I didn't get it all the way. And just form that nice little ball. Just tuck it under, just like that. Okay? Again, I don't want to overwork these. And these are going to rise up pretty good. These are going to be some pretty good sized rolls. I should probably put those over in the middle and leave a little on each side and in between them. Then I'll have a nice, and it'll be nice and finished. I want to make sure I stay under the camera for that, so you guys can see how that looks when it's done. See, it's a little bit sticky, but not bad. I'm gonna set these over some. I think I got them too close to the side there. Thought they were gonna be a little bit bigger. But when they rise up, they'll be perfect. I actually need to spread them out a little bit. Look at that. What's wrong with me? I don't really care if they rise up touching each other real high. I just want them, they'll rise. But I want them to be like, you know, little bitty individual buns. It's already looking pretty good. Now those are going to rise up and they're probably going to touch. That first one was a little bit small, but that's okay. I'm not going to touch them anymore because there they are. I'm going to again take the plastic. I'm going to cover this pan and I'm going to let these rise for 45 minutes or until, you know, they get to the top of the pan probably. And they could get there a lot quicker than that. About 20 minutes in, or when I got about 20 minutes left or 15 minutes left, I don't know how long it takes you to preheat your oven, but I'm going to preheat my oven to 375 degrees. I don't want these, since I have them in this pan, they have more than enough room. I'm going to bake them at a 375 instead of 400 because I feel like that will not overcook them, you know. And before I put them in the oven now, I'm going to brush them with an egg wash. I'm going to take one egg, and I'm going to use the egg white, and I'm just going to brush the top of these. Okay, so I'm going to put these aside. I'm going to put my rag back over them, put these back in the oven where I have them. Well, I'm going to put them back in there for about 30 minutes, then I'm going to take them out and check them, and then I'm going to preheat my oven for 15 minutes, and then I'll put them in. But we'll see what they look like in 15 minutes. We'll come back to the video then. GoPro, stop recording. Okay, here I am. I'm back with the rolls. This is what they look like when they came out of the oven. I actually took 2 down to my neighbor already, so that's why some of them. Uh-oh, I forgot to turn my lights on. Get the lights on so we can see this. There we go. Now you can see it. There we go. So anyhow, that's what we look like when they come out of the oven. They're nice and thick. They rose. Oh boy, look at that, man. They're nice and fluffy. Ooh, look at that. Man, that is perfect. That is a perfect dinner roll. I swept it with, wiped it, or I painted it with butter when I brought it out. Mmm. Mmm. That's perfect. It's delicious. You follow this recipe and you can have perfect, wonderful dinner rolls within a couple of hours every day. It makes some 6 nice, good sized rolls, and man, they are just perfectly fluffy and delicious. I'm gonna take a bite. Mmm. Hello? Yeah?
Yeah, you're on the right.
The rolls are pretty good, huh?
You're on the right.
The rolls are delicious. I tell you, I just bit into one. I'm making a video, and they're just delicious. I'm glad you called because your voice is going to be on the video.
Oh no.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad you liked it, Amy.
I do not want to be on the video.
All right, Amy. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Nobody wants to be on the video. Okay. Well, let's go back to our program. Reconnecting. The camera was probably filming the whole time. Yes, it was. Anyhow, so now I got the call from my neighbor, and you know, the rolls are delicious. And on top of that, my neighbor don't know it yet, but I made some good brownies too. We're gonna have some of those. So there we go. All you gotta do is just get up and do it, right? Okay. So that's it for today. Next video I'll be making some French bread. I got the recipe sitting right there. Okay, bye-bye now. Okay, I forgot to bring the rolls out, but there they are.